Okay, we're doing lessons 23A, which is for Wednesday, and 23B, which is for Thursday, in one video because the lessons are actually pretty short. So I'm going to do all of them in one, and they're very closely related to each other. They're both about solving quadratic functions, but one is going to be graphically, the other one's going to be algebraically. All right, so let's get started. Lesson 23A is on page 5 of the packet. If you want to do the do now on your own, you can pause the video here. All right, let's get started. So on this video, I added a hint. In your packet, I did not. All right, so the hint is to plug this equation into your calculator and see where y is equal to 0. And when I say plug it into your calculator, I mean plug it into y equals. All right, you can also factor, all right, which is not that difficult. You would just have to, so factor in, this is the difference of two perfect squares because 4 is a perfect square, x squared is a perfect square, and 100 is also a perfect square. Let me just change my brightness. Sorry. Okay. So with that being said, I know that the square root of 4 is 2, so I'm going to go ahead and create my double bubble. Set that equal to 0. So to get back to 4, I know I need 2 times 2. To get back to x, I know I need x times x. And then to get to a negative, I know I need it to be a plus and a minus. And then to get to 100, I need a 10 and a 10. All right, so now you're going to set both factors equal to 0. So 2x plus 10 equals 0, and 2x minus 10 equals 0. Over here, you're going to add 10 to both sides. You get 2x equals 10. You're going to subtract 10 from both sides over here. You get 2x equals negative 10. All right, then going to continue. 2x equals negative 10. And then you have 2x equals positive 10. You're going to divide by 2 for both equations. You get x equals negative 5 and x equals 5. If you do this on a calculator, you should see where x is negative 5, y is 0, and where x is positive 5, y is also 0. So that's answer choice 3. Okay. Awesome. All right, moving on. So steps to graphing quadratic functions. So for your first step, you're going to see if the equation is in standard form. Standard form would be ax squared plus bx plus c. I'll put the equals y over here. I should put that first, but it's okay. All right, so this is our equation down here. And it's already in standard form. You also know it's in standard form because it starts with the highest exponent and ends with the least. All right, so it's decreasing as far as exponents are concerned. So it starts with an exponent of 2, then the 8x has an exponent of 1, then the 12 has no exponent, so exponent of 0. All right, decreasing exponents is how you know it's in standard form. Step 2, identify the values of a, b, and c. So I wrote step 1 up there. So I'm going to put step 1, put a check. Step 2, a is equal to 1. It's the coefficient that's in front of the variable. All right, for b, it's going to be 8. For c, it's going to be 12. All right, all my numbers here are positive, so all of my a, b, and c values are positive. All right, step 3, find the axis of symmetry. The formula for axis of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a. Now, when they ask you to write the axis of symmetry as an equation, you need to write x equals whatever number you get from this equation. All right, x equals is the way to write axis of symmetry. All right, so step 3, I'm just going to put 3 because I need space. So x equals, my b is 8, and my a is 1. So x equals negative 8 over 2, which means x equals negative 4. All right, so now step 4, my vertex. My vertex is a coordinate point. It is the x value that you chose or that you got when you did the axis of symmetry, and whatever that y value is when x is going to be negative 4 in this case. So what you would do for step 4 is you would plug it in to your equation. So you want to find out what y is equal to when x is negative 4. So again, your axis of symmetry is the x value of your vertex. So negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 12. So y equals 16 because negative 4 times negative 4 is 16, or negative 4 squared is 16. All right, 8 times negative 4 gives me a negative 32. I add 12. So y equals 16 minus 32 is negative 16. Bring down that plus 12. Y is equal to negative 4. So my vertex, I'm going to put it over here. My vertex is negative 4, negative 4. All right, step 5. Construct a table of values for x and y. Your vertexes will go in the center row. Then choose 2 values for x that are above and below for a total of 5 values. So if you have a calculator, which everyone should, because I provided the link that gives you a calculator on the computer, there is a free app if you're only using your phone that gives you a graphing calculator. I have it on my phone. All right, so otherwise, you have to do this by hand. So what you did in step 4, you would have to do for your table. I'm just going to write the table out and tell you what those values would be. So step 5, x, y. So 2 values up will start at negative 2, and the y value will be 0. Then negative 3, y value will be negative 3. Negative 4, y value is negative 4. Negative 5, y value is negative 3. Negative 6, y value is 0. Okay, so these are my 5 values with my vertex at the center. Now, if you don't have a calculator, you have to plug in negative 2 into the equation, and then you would get 0. Then plug in negative 3 into the equation, then you get negative 3, so on and so forth. All right, so now I'm going to plot these points and graph, which is step 6. So let's start at our vertex, which is also known as our turning point, negative 4, which is here. I'm going to go up because I know the next y value is negative 3. I know the next value is 0. All right, and I'm going to draw my U-shaped parabola with arrows. Okay, so that's what you have to do for graphing. All right, so example 2, you have a negative. I'm going to kind of whiz through this just because I went step by step and I already did this on my enter key. So this is already in standard form. So step 1, we're good. Step 2, identify A, B, and C. My A is equal to negative 1. That negative means something. All right. My B is negative 2. Keep the sign with the number. My C is a positive 5. All right. Step 3 is going to be find the axis of symmetry. X equals negative B over 2A. So I already have a -2. That means I'm going to have two negatives. And then the 2 times -1 in my denominator. That gives me x equals +2 over -2, which means x equals -1 for the x value of my vertex. So I'm going to plug that in. -1 squared minus 2 times -1 plus 5. All right, parentheses, -1 squared is +1, but then there's a -1 outside, so there's a -1 here to y. -2 times -1 gives me a +2, then bring down that plus 5 equals y. -1 plus 2 gives me a +1, 1 plus 5 equals 6, so y is equal to 6. All right, so now my vertex is -1, 6. Let's plot that. -1 go up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, -1, 6. Let's create my table, which is step 5. Remember, I already have the table down, so I'm just gonna start writing. All right, so -3, 2, -2, 5, -1, 6, which is our vertex. 0, 5, and then 1, 2. Notice how at the vertex, my y values start to repeat. That's how you know it's a turning point. All right, so now let's plot these. -2, 5, which is here. And then 1, so 0, 5, and then 1, 2, and then -3, 2. -3, 2, and then 1, 2. All right, don't forget your arrows. It's upside down because this equation was negative. All right, this is a you try. This is for you to do on your own. Take a picture, upload it when the classwork assignment goes up. I am moving on to lesson 23B. If you want to do the do now on your own, pause the video here. If not, keep it going. Axis of symmetry equation is x equals -b over 2a. All right, I'm going to identify the a, b, and c terms here just to help me out. My a is 1, my b is -6, my c is 9. So I'm going to plug this in. I have a negative already, so that means I'm going to have a double negative for this equation. -6 over 2 times 1. So x equals 6 over 2, which means x is equal to 3. They asked for the equation, so it must be x equals 3, not just 3. All right, so that's your answer for the do now. Now, this is just practice for you to find. You're going to cross out question 10. All right, we're not doing question 10. I'm going to do an example for question 9, and then you all have the practice problems of questions 11 and 12 to answer, take a picture, and upload it to Google Classroom. All right, so you're going to find the x-intercepts, the y-intercepts, the vertex, and the axis of symmetry of this function here. All right, so the first step to do that, because I can already tell by looking at this equation, I can't just factor it normally using double bubble. You have to use the quadratic formula. So x equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Because if you were to plug this into your calculator, you would not see anywhere where y is equal to 0 because it'll be a decimal, which is why we're using quadratic formula. And then we will talk about the y-intercept in just a second. All right, so let's label my a, b, and c. My a is 1, My b is 2. My c is -5. All right, so my b is 2, x equals, and I'm putting everything that I'm plugging in into parentheses. Okay, so I have -2 plus or minus square root 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times -5. All right, so x equals -2 plus or minus square root. Let's figure out what's under that square root. So 2 squared is 4, and -4 times 1 is -4, and -4 times -5 is a positive 20, all over 2 times 1 is 2. So now I have x equals -2 plus or minus square root of 24 all over 2. I can now break down this radical 24, and let's see what I get when I do. X equals -2. I know that 4 goes into 24, so I can do a square root of 4, square root of 6 over 2. X equals -2 plus or minus. Square root of 4 is 2. Leave the square root of 6. It cannot be broken down. Divide by 2. Now I see that I have all these 2's here. I can then divide each of these 2's in the numerator by the 2 in the denominator. So 2 divided by 2, -2 divided by 2 gives me a -1. And then the 2 divided by 2 gives me a positive 1 here, which cancels out this 2 here. And that gives me a 6. I don't have to include this 1 here because 1 times anything is itself. So my final answer is x equals -1 plus or minus radical 6. This is two different equations. This is x equals -1 plus radical 6 and x equals -1 minus radical 6, which will give us a decimal, all right, which is why we don't see it on our table if you're using a calculator. But I found my x-intercepts. These are it, okay? It's not always pretty. My y-intercept is a little bit easier. This number here, our c term, is a part of our y-intercept, or it is. So x is equal to -1 plus or minus radical 6. The y is equal to a -5 because at -5, x is 0, which makes it a y-intercept. Now let's go for the vertex. Actually, let's go for the axis of symmetry first. That should have been before that. So axis of symmetry would be, x equals -b over 2a. Our b was a positive 2, so x equals -2, and our a was 1, correct? Yes. Over 2 times 1. So x equals -2 over 2, which means x equals -1. For our axis of symmetry, x equals -1. Now you're going to plug that -1 into the equation and see what you get for our vertex. X squared plus 2x minus 5. So y equals x squared plus 2x minus 5. All right, so y equals 1 minus 2 minus 5. So y is equal to -1 minus 5, which means y is equal to -6. So the vertex here is -1 comma -6. All right, so now that's how you would solve this algebraically, and then the same method, use the vertex to begin graphing if you needed to. But this is how you solve algebraically. Yes, there are a lot of steps. I want you to try these next two questions on your own for every lesson. Or here you try and practice questions and homework or what you need to take a picture of and upload to Google Classroom. Make sure you're uploading it to the correct thing. All right, I'm going to stop here. because this is the end of our week for this week. You have another quiz on Friday using quizzes. All right, that quiz will also be due on April 8th. All right, I extended the last quiz to April 8th as well. For right now, as of we know, April 8th is the last day of school until spring break begins. Then after spring break, we may start. If anything changes, I am having I'm having office hours today at 3:30 till 4:30 using Zoom. I will post that link again. And next week, April 8th, I'm having another office hour set up for Zoom on Wednesday, April 8th, to update you guys about whether or not we're going to continue working through spring break or not. I'm not really sure, but that's pretty much where we are right now. I miss you guys, so if you come on Zoom, I'll be happy to see you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Be safe.